connections, and of course, it is not necessarily new that we are having a state visit, but we have had them in the past. I can remember, upon reflection, a visit which stood out was that of Nelson Mandela in 1998. He came to St. Lucia for the 25th anniversary of CARICOM.
Indeed, and of course, thanks to you, Claudia, and good afternoon to Michael, and of course to all those listening on this very important day at which St. Lucia is in fact welcoming for an official state visit of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And of course, as you rightfully said, Claudia, state visits are in and of themselves important, and they are seen to be the means by which countries strengthen their relations, and so it in and of itself, it has a structure which it takes and a significance which it takes. And as a small country like St. Lucia, we have not really been privileged to see too many state visits. I think for the older generation, maybe the one that would have stood out was the state visit of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, which was back in February of 1966. And so we were still very much a colony of the United Kingdom. This was even before we became an associated state the following year in 1967. And of course, but that wasn't a very close relationship, of course, because we were in fact a colony, and so she still was, of course, for very many years our head of state. But beyond that, when we became independent in 1979, we then had the opportunity to now set out our own foreign policy and make our own links and set our own diplomatic relations. And since then, of course, as a smaller island developing state, it's still very limited. So I think you can probably say maybe less than 10 state-level visits that we've ever had in the country before. I know for sure we've witnessed one head of state coming from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. We've seen 3 heads of state from the Republic of China, Taiwan, President Chen Shui-bian, as well President Ma Ying-jeou, back in I think 2014, I believe it was about that, and as well President Tsai Ing-wen, who also came fairly recently as well. Beyond that, we saw also the visit, as you mentioned, Claudia, of the great Madiba, perhaps one of the best known figures coming out of the African continent, that of Nelson Mandela, very much known because of his struggle against apartheid in South Africa. And so, of course, when he came as part of that very auspicious celebration of CARICOM back in 1998, July 1998, there was a great spectacle in terms of the involvement of so many persons coming out to the Mindu Philip Park. And I know for sure a lot of people would have remembered that and probably have still named their children after Mandela after a day like today. And I think we, of course, as you mentioned earlier on, we were off air, Michael, we did see a state visit of His Excellency Irfan Ali, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, of course, a CARICOM member state and very close to home, for which we've, of course, had very long-standing relations with. But this one certainly stands out, in my estimation, because Nigeria is already seen to be an African superpower. Right? All indications are that Nigeria is set to become one of the leading economies in the world moving forward. Whereas a lot of countries, for example, are struggling with very low fertility rates. We already know that Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa. It has 223 million countries. So by that virtue alone, President Tinubu is actually representing the country that has been the most populous ever coming to St. Lucia. I mean, when you compare it with Taiwan at 23 million or Venezuela, about the same population, this is a significant country, Nigeria. It is, of course, an oil power. It has a significant oil and gas reserves. I think one of the top 10 in the world. It is also a significant player in terms of its culture and the arts and how it has projected itself. I mean, so many people love the Afro beats already, and that is a product of the Nigerian diaspora, and really showing how powerful they have become on a worldwide scene. Of course, the St. Lucian's taken these Bollywood movies. They've become a major player in terms of film in the world. And of course, I mean, on the scale of the economy, it is certainly one of the largest economies in Africa. And would you believe as well that the projections, the demographic projections, are that Nigeria may very well become the third most populous country in the world by the time we get to around 2050. And in fact, that would mean that it would be even larger in terms of population than the United States of America. So it is certainly going to be already is a significant player, and it is on its way to becoming the superpower of Africa. And I think within that context, we have to appreciate the significance of importance of strengthening those relations with Africa on a whole, but Nigeria especially.
Okay, so we will now allow Michael to share with our Creole audience.
Okay, moi je dis bienvenue avec bien content pour ici pour ensemble et puis Claudia et puis Calix pour présenter avec dire exactement ça qu'a passé et puis visite président Bola Ahmed Tinubu qui est président plus gros pays en Afrique, nous dit Nigeria, c'est un pays qui a pile monde 223 millions de monde. Chaque monde quand Calix te dit tout à l'heure manière il ka aller il semble plus monde passer l'Amérique même en chaque place dans la terre il capable qui Nigeria c'est un pays qui ni en chaque il pas capable il ni en chaque en gros l'économie en Italie nous te regarder pour l'économie la Nigeria, ça c'est 363 billions de dollars américains. Je vais répéter, l'économie valeur de l'économie Nigeria pour moi, c'est 363 billions de dollars américains. Avec ça veut dire c'est encore un pays qui n'est en charge agricole, là ni cacao, là ni bagaille, ça y est bauxite, aluminium, là ni l'or, là ni plusieurs différents bagailles avec l'huile encore, il y a produit là. So visite président ça là, il est important pour pas Saint-Lucie, mais Caraïbes là puisqu'il est important pour nous établir relation et puis façade ça là puisque nous en charge de nous c'est là nous sortis jeunes en Afrique mais nous pas jamais joué une chance pour établir une qualité de relation et puis Afrique puisque nous pour l'Amérique nous plus pour l'Angleterre c'est plutôt ces pays ça avec Taïwan avec l'autre pays comme ça mais visite président ça là président Tinubu qui a renforcé relation et puis Saint-Lucie et puis Afrique et peut-être plus touristes peuvent venir, plus marchandises nous ça vendre avec bagaille comme ça, établir un primaire échange, scholarship, l'école, tout bagaille comme ça pour faire plus à l'aise, pour nous en primaire relation et puis ça nous garde maman nous. Okay.
As a matter of fact, Michael was trying to see if it was possible to trace his roots to the Yoruba tribe.
Yoruba.
which is well known for bearing twins and eating lots of yam.
And I think the remarkable thing about Nigeria too is that it is so diverse. We think of it as a country, and sometimes you think of a country as one homogeneous set of people. Africa on a whole is very diverse, but Nigeria in particular is a remarkable hotspot. I don't know if you're aware that in fact it has the second most number of languages spoken in any one country in the world. 560 different languages spoken in Nigeria. And of course, we know some of the very popular ones, the Igbo,
Yes, yes,
the Yoruba, as you mentioned, the Hausa, the Fulani, but it is beyond those large ones. There are so many others as well, and it really speaks to an amazing melting pot and diversity of culture that exists within Nigeria.
And you can even talk about, just quickly, the religion. Lots of Christians and
diverse religious beliefs.
The Muslim population, very large Muslim
population is heavy.
Very much so.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, three large major groupings, of course, that of the Muslim population, primarily in the north, in the drier section, in the southern savannah coastal section, a lot more Christian population there, with respect to it. So very, very diverse and really represents, again, the nature of a wonderful country indeed. In fact, I think, Michael, for a lot of St. Lucians, they may very well have a Nigerian priest or pastor in their flock, helping in that regard.
Certainly, and now we are going to take on two reports prepared by the Government Information Service on the official visit of President Tinubu.
Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre announced recently that the heads of government of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States will meet in St. Lucia with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the end of June.
Let me announce to you that His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will be visiting St. Lucia from the 28th of June to the 4th of July 2025. 2 of these days, June 30th and July 1st, 2025, will be an official visit. The remainder of the days will be a personal vacation for the President. The engagement with President Tinubu represents a valuable occasion for heads of government, and I have invited all the heads of government from the OECS countries to visit St. Lucia at the time so we can have a formal engagement with the President of Nigeria.
Prime Minister Pierre said the Nigerian president's visit is an opportunity for the Caribbean to strengthen its bond with the African continent, considering the shared heritage of the two regions.
As chairman of the OECS authority, I believe that the visit of the President of Nigeria represents a unique and historic opportunity to deepen the bonds between Africa and the Caribbean. As descendants of a shared heritage, the peoples of our region trace deep links to the African continent, particularly Nigeria. These long-standing cultural and historical connections compel us to continue nurturing and expanding our partnerships with Africa in ways that are meaningful, strategic, and sustainable.
Details of the President's visit to St. Lucia will be provided in due course by the Ministry of External Affairs. Petul arrived in St. Lucia on Saturday, June 28th, on an official state visit. Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Philip Pierre, said President Tinubu's visit will provide an opportunity for the countries of the OECS to strengthen economic cooperation and diplomatic ties with African countries.
As descendants of a shared heritage, the peoples of our region trace deep links to the African continent, particularly Nigeria. These long-standing cultural and historical connections compel us to continue nurturing and expanding our partnerships with Africa in ways that are meaningful, strategic, and sustainable. The engagement with President Tinubu represents a valuable occasion for heads of government, and I have invited all the heads of government from the OECS countries to visit St. Lucia at the time so we can have a formal engagement with the President of Nigeria. We hope to collectively explore avenues of cooperation in such areas as economic development, education, infrastructure, and diplomatic exchange.
His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu was inaugurated as President of Nigeria on May 29, 2023. By the fourth quarter of 2024, the World Bank noted a 4.6% growth in Nigeria's economy, its fastest growth in about a decade. Prime Minister Pierre has long advocated for unity and stronger collaboration between Africa and the Caribbean to tackle global challenges.
Nigeria is a vast country full of resources, and for many historical reasons, we have to maintain these ties with Africa, and we want to expand these ties, and this official visit is the first step. You may recall in our manifesto, we said that we're looking towards the south, so that we could expand our relations with the south. And we also said when we celebrated Emancipation Day, we also said that our history was important. We cannot run away from our history. And Africa is part of our history. The same way Europe is part of our history. But we cannot run away from our history. And a lot of our history resides in Africa. And we have to ensure that these relations are tightened, particularly now with what's happening in the world as far as the relationship between countries are concerned. So I want to officially welcome the President of Nigeria.
Over the past 24 years, St. Lucia has established diplomatic relations with some 11 African countries, including Morocco in 1988, South Africa in 1996, Kenya in 2019, the Ivory Coast in 2022, Sierra Leone in 2023, and Eritrea in 2024.
Thank you very much, Information Officer Petula Olibert, for this very insightful report. And it's all part and parcel of educating and sensitizing our St. Lucian public about the country Nigeria, the man, the president, and what the country can benefit from as we strengthen our relations, not only, of course, with St. Lucia. We are not embarking on this journey all alone. We have the OECS member states who are also on Island Michael, and they are also embarking on this journey. And it's been described, Calix, as a new gateway for the region.
Yes, exactly. In fact, that's exactly what I wanted to discuss. The fact that the Prime Minister is making the point that although this is a state visit between St. Lucia and Nigeria, yes, but this is also a cooperation and a multilateral arrangement with the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States and Nigeria. In fact, there were a number of leaders from the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States who in fact were just in Abuja, in the capital of Nigeria, as part of the Afreximbank's annual meetings, which are being held in the state capital in Nigeria. Prime Minister Dikon Mitchell of Grenada, as well as Dr. Terence Drew of St. Kitts and Nevis. And it shows that that cooperation agreement, which has been around since 2021 between CARICOM and the Afreximbank, is certainly creating that bridgehead of connections, of links between Africa and the Caribbean. In fact, the Caribbean is now recognized as the sixth region of Africa. So, in Africa, there are a number of different regions. There's North Africa, Central, West. So that we are now considered a sixth region of Africa, and which is certainly really important for us to change how we also see ourselves, because traditionally our trading partner has been with the trading relationships have been with the North America, Europe, but then now being able to make that connection with the Atlantic is certainly very, very important. And so this visit is certainly also representative of the OECS coming closer to Africa and in particular to Nigeria.
Certainly, as the Caribbean, take steps toward South-South cooperation, I foresee educational exchanges, cultural initiatives, economic and business initiatives also taking root. Michael, certainly it's a partially untapped area for the region, because CARICOM has made strides, has made effort before in terms of South-South cooperation. But then there is so much more potential in that region?
Premièrement, Claudia, à part des affaires économiques, nous ni en l'histoire esclavage. Nous pas ça oublier ça. L'histoire nous c'est directement les monde dit nègre, c'est Afrique qui a parlé. Mais nous pas jamais jouer une qualité relation ça là. Et puis place là. Merci bon Dieu pour ces rasta. C'est rasta nous ni pour bailler féliciter yo pour qu'a une qualité relation ça là. Et puis Afrique c'est mother country, c'est comme ça nous avons prié. Avec, il est important, visite ça là, important, puisque j'ai Premier ministre te dit nous, l'école en Tripo, qu'a fait là à présent, qu'a bâti là, il a mis un autre morceau, il a bâti l'école. C'est comme Calix dit, c'est banque Afrique Exim. C'est relation ça là, c'est un qui est important puisque longtemps même, c'était Nord Amérique avec c'est les autres places à nous qui ont joué l'honnête. C'est pas ça à chercher, nous pas important encore. So, nous pour aller l'autre côté avec bien un bon bagage qui Afrique avec ces Caraïbes là. Calix dit nous c'est sixième qui m'a regardé sixième section et bien en place Afrique puisque nous même même qualité la vie pas même parler pour les affaires culturelles moi quand regarder un échange culturel qui ça fait par qualité visite ça là nous puisque c'est là nous sortir Ghana Nigeria toutes ces places là il est important moi quand quoi qui visite ça là important en pile plus parce que cher moun ka quoi par président Tinubu.
That is absolutely true, Michael. In as much as we in the Caribbean, probably, Calix, we are bombarded by a lot of Western influences, American to be more precise. We do have a lot of history that we could tap into as Caribbean people, and a lot of influences, even in the way that we express ourselves, our carnival, fashion, cooking. I believe there are lots of similar cooking methods and various foods, and of course there is a section of the Caribbean who really loves the Nollywood film industry that you alluded to before. So it's not new. We have been having a lot of intersections amongst people who are Nigerian, and we have, of course, the Nigerian St. Lucia community here, and they will form part of the welcoming party at the HIA this afternoon. And I must indicate to you that there will be a blend or fusion of our St. Lucia national wear, and the Nigerians, of course, will wear their national wear, their attire. And insofar as the president, Mr. Anthony Enzi, has indicated, he is going to wear the lion head, and he is going to be in the mood of a chief. And he's a real chief, he assured me.
What tribe?
And perhaps when we speak with him on Monday, at the conclusion of the joint sitting, we can find out more about his tribes and all of that, because as I indicated, Michael is very interested in this along the lines of the tribes and his lineage, and rightfully so.
Yeah, but the culture thing is so tremendous, and the point that what Michael was making is very important. I mean, if we were all able to do an ancestry test, there's ancestry.com,
right.
123 and me, all of these things, go online, and you will very much find that quite likely very many St. Lucians would be Nigerian by ancestry, right? It was certainly one of those areas where a significant number of the enslaved persons were actually taken from, and you may not see it called Nigeria, but you'd see references towards the Bight of Biafra, right? Biafra being, in fact, still is a part of along the coast of the Niger Delta, and so a significant amount of our culture and cultural expressions, in fact, do originate, of course, from West Africa, but especially from Nigeria itself. And the point should also be made that even post-emancipation, there were Africans who came as part of indentured programs, indentureship, as freed Africans, and who in fact settled in various parts of the country, including Babono in the Faso area. So the traditions of Kele come out of traditions out of Nigeria. So we certainly should see this as almost a homecoming and a reunion between this ocean that has separated us for so many years, that we can in fact break that down and unite our own selves, rediscovering our own selves.
Exactly, and further to that, when it comes to the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival, for example, World Beats is usually headlined by the top Afrobeat artists from 2023. We've seen quite a few of the popular ones, Davido and Ruga and Joe Boy, etc., and very, very much appreciated by the St. Lucian audiences.
Yes, and the other message too that's important, because sometimes we're thinking it might be one way, but we also have that opportunity to actually export our own music as well. I mean, you would be amazed to know how much the Caribbean has impacted on African music as well. I mean, reggae, exactly. Yes. So we have shown that in the past, and in fact, even you've got a very large Nigerian and African diaspora in the United States of America. A lot of Nigerians are and Europe, and they travel and they come to St. Lucia partly because as well they want to enjoy that Caribbean fusion and artistry that we also have to offer. Yeah. So the possibilities there are very significant as well.
Absolutely. And I think now, Calix, we can look at the official slate of events which have been outlined for the president's visits.
Right. So there was, I think on Thursday, in fact, a press conference by the Ministry of External Affairs outlining some of the events that are in fact coming up. This state visit is the first one of its kind, and it is going along the lines of a very traditional state visit. So, of course, the arrival at Itinerary International Airport in the south of President Tinubu and Lady Tinubu and their delegation. Of course, he'll be provided with all the customary honors. There'll be a guard of honor present. He'll be met by, I believe, His Excellency the Governor General, as well as Prime Minister Pierre and some other members of Parliament, including the Member of Parliament for Vavay South, of course, where Hiwanora is, our former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony. So there will be, of course, that welcome, that pageantry that is customary of a head of state. And then, of course, tomorrow he will call on His Excellency the Governor General at Government House for courtesy call there, as well as the Prime Minister at the official residence at VG. And then, and I think that was deliberate because in terms of trying to reduce on the impact of traffic, having those on the Sunday, having to come into the castries to try to reduce on that impact, those would mean that he wouldn't be coming in on the Monday, which of course would have caused a lot of difficulty. On the Monday, there is, of course, going to be that joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament. The Senate and the House will be meeting in joint session to, in fact, hear an address from His Excellency Bola Tinubu. And, of course, that would normally take the form of a welcome by the President of the Senate. He will deliver his address. And then, in fact, I think the Prime Minister will say some remarks on behalf of the country.
And the Speaker as well.
And, of course, the Speaker will close off that event. Immediately following that, there will be, I think, an official photo, and then they will, of course, move into a working lunch, which will involve the other members of the OECS, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, other heads of government, for that working lunch, which will be happening. And this will be happening in the north of the island. The actual Parliament will be meeting within the William Jefferson Clinton Ballroom at Sandals Grand. And so, of course, that working lunch will also occur there. And in the evening, there will be an official cocktail reception by His Excellency at Government House, and that would wrap up the Monday.
And we will go to a traffic report. As you alluded to, some inconvenience will be experienced. Minor inconvenience will be experienced, but the public is asked to cooperate as much as possible. We now take you underground to view Fort. Of course, there were some plans that were initially made for the George F.L. Charles Airport, and this has been cancelled. We've been informed, and so we take you straight to the Uwanore International Airport in View Fort, where we will witness the Prime Minister welcome the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu on island. And we can see the welcoming party gathered at the foot of the presidential aircraft.
I think you got a view of the head of protocol, Ms. Shonika Plummer, who of course is the one who would be coordinating these affairs. and a pretty large delegation. It's a very challenging day in terms of the weather. We should make mention of. In fact, it's been challenging for the planes coming in as well, and I think we're going to be seeing is that his aide-de-camp, quite possibly. We should be seeing very shortly.
Yes.
His Excellency Tinubu emerging from that plane that is down there. It's a 737, quite a large plane, can hold almost 160 or so passengers. He is coming with a pretty extensive delegation, I believe over 100 individuals.
Yes, indeed. And of course, quite apart from the official aspects of things, Michael, the president is hoping to have a few days of vacation, as Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre indicated. And I'm sure that they're going to enjoy the beautiful landscape of St. Lucia.
We can see him coming down now, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and he's being escorted by his aide-de-camp.
Oui, il peut paraître comme président, nous avons descendre l'escalier avion à présent avec un jeune et puis Premier ministre à terre, oui, avec ses gens officiels, ministre des Affaires étrangères, il y a présenté avec des portraits à présent. Il a mis pied à sous terre Sainte-Lucie.
Now I'm shaking the hand of His Excellency Governor General and Lady Charles. And I believe that is the Prime Minister of St. Lucia greeting His Excellency Tinubu.
Indeed, a warm and vibrant welcome, reflective of St. Lucia's authentic hospitality.
Now meeting a former Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, and having a chat with him at that point. I suppose they may have actually known each other.
He looks bright and engaging after his flight.
And we should say this was actually a very long flight, so over 8 hours.
Yes.
From Abuja. A direct flight across the Atlantic, yes.
Nonetheless, President Tinubu looks quite bright, alert, and energetic.
And he was, in fact, as a part of the Afrexim Bank meetings, he did attend some of those meetings over in Abuja as well. And so certainly he needs some rest, and I think he would certainly, hopefully, St. Lucia be the best place for a bit of R&R.
I absolutely agree. I think there's so much for him to enjoy on island, not just him, but his entourage as well.
Pour les présents, nous avons dit, nous avons un portrait à côté président Tinubu, j'arrivé Sainte-Lucie, avec il a secoué la main. À présent, ça nous a fait, c'est qu'il a allé en dedans ces maisons à sous aéroport pour ni en cérémonie officielle. Nous avons le Premier ministre en temps passé. Ça c'est Dr. Kenny Anthony. Nous avons le Premier ministre à présent, il était là, avec la nuit, bon entourage, et puis c'est mon venu là. Et comme on dit, il a préparé pour une grande cérémonie pour bienvenir président Tinubu en Sainte-Lucie, avec Calix d'Italia, il peut être obligé de mériter anti-pause pour poser quoi, puisque c'est comme plus que 8 minutes en les airs. Ça là, peut-être cérémonie pas tellement longue, avec qui a voyagé pour notre pays.
And as indicated, we did see this very elegant display of the Nigerian national wear and the St. Lucian traditional wear, as well as a bouquet was presented, and the president was warmly welcomed to St. Lucia.
And we're seeing right now in camera on the eastern side of the tarmac at Hiwanor International, an honor guard is formed. It looks like 2 files of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, as well as the Royal St. Lucia Police Band. And of course, as will be customary, they'll be playing the national anthems of Nigeria and of St. Lucia. Certainly a very overcast day, and let's hope that the weather holds up for this part of it as well.
Thankful for the break in the heavy showers that were experienced earlier on.
The ground is definitely damp. And we can see in short Honorable Prime Minister being escorted to the dais.
Fingers crossed that there will not be a downpour to interrupt the guard of honor and the ceremonial welcome.
Looks like it's all well.
I think one of the points that you were making earlier on, Michael, is important, that we already are seeing some of the tangibles of the cooperation between Africa and the Caribbean. And Africa, and already now you're seeing some of the action in terms of development.
And of course, Khalid, the sheer scale of logistics involved in state visit is truly remarkable, from security coordination to ceremonial protocols, transportation, accommodations, and media coverage. Every detail is meticulously planned to ensure everything runs like clockwork.
Oui, nous comme dit, nous avions fort à présent, ça c'est l'aéroport Iwanora à Biefort, avec ça c'est un président ça qui en garde of honor pour bienvenue et recevoir président Nigeria, président Bola Ahmed Tinubu, et avec un bon étoilage qui est arrivé à Saint-Lucie. Qui a resté Saint-Lucie pour approcher une semaine. Il a mis un engagement officiel pour approcher 3 jours avec l'instant il a passé vacances en Saint-Lucie. Ça qui a fait nous voir à cette télévision là à présent, il a allé de route devant ces gardes of honor, ces polices là, pour montrer l'honnêteté et le
15th serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He, in fact, was previously also the governor of one of the second most populous states in Nigeria, Lagos State, in which, of course, is the city of Lagos, the largest city in Africa by virtue of population, right along the coast. And he has served in politics in Nigeria since 1992. He, in fact, did spend some time studying in the United States of America in the 70s, between 1975 and 1979. In fact, ironically enough, during that same period, between 1975 and 1979, in Nigeria, the Chief Justice of Nigeria was in fact a St. Lucian, Sir Darnley Alexander. He, in fact, Sir Darnley, went first to Nigeria in the 1950s as a legal draftsman and rose to become the Chief Justice of Nigeria. And he held that position during what was a very tumultuous time in the history of Nigeria. There were two military coups during that period of time when President Tinubu was in fact in Chicago in studying. He pursued finance and accounting and returned to Nigeria and joined Mobil Oil and did very, very well, in fact, rising to become an executive of Mobil Oil in Nigeria. And he then, in fact, went on to serve. He comes from a very popular, prominent family in Lagos as well, in his hometown, home state, and certainly got into community service and eventually got into the politics of Nigeria back in around 1992, serving as a senator in the federal parliament.
An accountant by profession.
An accountant by profession, but of course a gentleman who's got a lot of different experiences at different levels of government as well. In fact, he was at one point, there are 36 states in Nigeria, and at one point he was the only governor from his party. He was the lone man standing at that time. So he certainly has, he's been a fighter for a very long time, and somebody who stood up for the reinstatement of democracy in Nigeria, especially during many periods when we saw military coups being brought upon the society. So he has been.
The president on the days before this, he inspected the guard of honor, and we heard the playing of the Nigerian national anthem as well as the St. Lucian national anthem. And just to share on Nigeria's national anthem, the title is "Arise, O Compatriots." It is a symbol of unity, patriotism, and national pride, and is often performed at official functions, including state visits like today's. The key themes of the Nigerian national anthem include, Michael, national service and loyalty, sacrifice and unity, building a nation where peace and justice shall reign. And if I may share on the first stanza, arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call obey, to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain, to serve with heart and might, one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity. And I think a lot of that resonates, Calix, with our own national
Sons
anthem.
and daughters of St. Lucia, certainly. I'm thankful that the weather has held up. It has certainly been quite a challenge, and for those, of course, up north in Castries, we can well appreciate how inclement it has certainly been, and it's quite thankful for the members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and of course the delegation that has held up for that ceremonial welcome.
Yes, and the clock has just struck 1 minute past 6 o'clock, and we can see that there is a reduction in lighting, and so I'm sure that they are going to be moving as efficiently as possible. We are seeing, Calix, what looks like a convoy, and so
yes, indeed, the convoy has been formed up.
Yes, they seem to be poised.
Originally, I think the plan was to have, in fact, would have been to have had a conveyance across to George F. L. Charles Airport. Domestic flight, but again, due to the weather and the delay in actual arrival, plans have had to be changed, of course, and so certainly kudos to the Ministry of External Affairs for having the Plan B which is in fact being executed as we speak. Of course, it will mean that the drive will be a little bit longer, but you certainly will be able to then perhaps witness a bit more of the beauty of our island.
In the night?
It's not so dark. Hopefully you'll still be able to have some enjoyment of it indeed.
We will make up for that over the next few days, I'm sure, as he and his entourage heads to a hotel in the north of the island.
I was going to ask whether there is a welcome ceremony besides what is speeches or anything like that. It doesn't seem so.
Well, I suppose the main welcome would have been right here, which is what we've just witnessed.
Right, okay.
And then, of course, we've got the hotel which he's staying at for the rest of the night.
So they are already...
So effectively, this would be as part of the ceremonial official aspect for today. This would, in fact, be the end of... Let's also appreciate that he's had a very, very long flight. His entire delegation.
Après que 10 minutes du temps, on les Mounalas, vous savez, le président Las, avec il a voyagé directement à présent à sa Claudia d'Italia. C'est plusieurs machines. Ça simplifie nous avons convoy, mais nous avons simplifié nous connaître comme cable.
And of course, I think it's really important to note for the public the importance of following the directions of the police, especially the outriders, who will of course be trying to ensure that the convoy stays together, doesn't get broken up, and everybody can go through safely. Of course, there'll be lots of logistics over the next couple of days through which the Royal St. Lucia Police Force will be a really integral aspect of them, and so we definitely want to thank them for ensuring that things will continue to work as best as possible to follow the clockwork.
Il est important ici pour machine, ça c'est entourage, et convoy, ça Adam qui connaître comme motocycle. C'est Mouna qui a et puis président pour connaître et comprendre et apprécier qui ça c'est étranger et que nous pour traiter bien et respecter yo. C'est ça qui est plus important quand laisser police là dit du bout aller à son côté quitter bail là passer ni un petit patience toutes ces bails ça qu'a fait durant temps président en Sainte-Lucie alors Sainte-Lucie président gouvernement tout le monde a demandé s'il plaît pour ni un petit patience ni connaître mutuel respect qui pour avec un nous quitter bail marché bien pour Sainte-Lucie avec pour nous joindre plus.
Merci bien, Michael, as we bring the curtains down on this historic state visit of the Nigerian Bola Tinubu. And of course, I would like to thank you, Calix George Jr., and of course, Michael Gasper.
Merci.
On behalf of the GIS team, the Director of Information Services, Mrs. Vinette Sentoma Fontinel, and the Principal Information Officer, I am saying goodbye for now.